All right, well, hello and good afternoon, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started in just a moment with Galileo 101. That's contingent on Russell successfully sharing his screen here. Here we go.
Russell, you've still got folks coming in, so you may want to
Okay.
give it another minute or so.
Problem. Need to do that. And mute while I do that just for a second. And that's me. I am all set now. I'm going to give it another minute or so for everybody to roll on in. And we'll get started with Galileo 101. Welcome, everyone.
It looks like it's pretty much stabilized.
Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and get rolling then with respect to everyone's time. Last act of the day, the last thing between you all and the end of the conference. So the length of this session will be dependent on our attendees here. If you all ask lots of questions, we might go all the way to 5 o'clock, and that's awesome. If you don't, you will get out early, which is also great. So let's go ahead and get rolling. I have a whopping 9 slides. One of them is this one. The other one is a thank you slide. So I'm going to do a lot of web demo. Let's go ahead and launch in. Welcome to Galileo 101. And I'm Russell Palmer. I'm the Assistant Director for Galileo Support Services. And I've worked with many of you in many different contexts, from training to Open Athens implementation to e-resource management, e-resource support, and always thrilled to work with you, always thrilled to present for you and share more of what we're doing and what we're planning to do. So the session today, I'm going to divide it into 2 distinctive parts. I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about the things we're currently working on and perhaps about to release very soon. Then I'm going to tell you a little bit about some longer term things that we're doing, but I'm also going to do a little recap of some things that I want to make sure that you're aware of that we've released in the last little bit as well. So with that in mind, let me go ahead and advance here to our agenda. I tried to keep it simple. It's going to be clear that I didn't have a lot of time to write a presentation this week. As Joy knows, I write my presentations all the way up to the last possible moment. And I did spend time on it, but I kept it brief. So our agenda, we'll talk about what we're doing recently, what we've done recently, what we're going to be doing shortly, what we're going to do eventually, and then we'll have some Q&A and discussion time. And I'm going to seed that discussion a little bit here as we get started. And so what I want you to think about here as we begin this session is the end. Let's plan for the end. We do a lot of this when we do our development work. We think about what we want the end product to look like. What do the end users want to see? So with that in mind, at the end of this presentation, you'll know what we're doing, what we've been up to, where we're going, what we're going to do next. So what I want to hear from you all, and you'll have an opportunity to share this in the chat, is what questions do you have for us? What issues, problems, limitations in Galileo would you like to see us address? Now, don't share that yet. Hold on to that thought. Think about it throughout the presentation. But do take a minute as you go through to write some things down. If you want, take a picture of this slide. So this is what I always do. I learned this from college students when I was still doing reference work. I used to pull up a bib record for them for an item that they were going to look for, and I was going to print it out for them, and they had a picture of it taken and then on their phone before they could. They're always so much smarter than me. But in any case, take a picture of it. It'll last longer, and that way you can have it to refresh yourselves on these questions as we go through. And then at the end, let's just be ready to share in the chat when we get to that dedicated Q&A time, and I look forward to hearing what you all have to share there. So just to want to share some things, I'm going to do some live demo here in a moment, some things that we have released fairly recently, and we've even been releasing some improvements to these things as well. So we'll start by just taking a quick look at bento customization. I think there's a huge amount of value in bento customization for customizing the look and feel of the bento for individual users. I think there's a lot of value there, but I think also as you're working with faculty, I think it would be really great to share this with them so that they can see how they can manipulate the bento search faculty or reference librarians or people that are working with groups in your public library or specific teachers even can manipulate the bento customization piece to really serve their needs specifically. I'm going to talk about that and maybe run through an example. We've done banners. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on banners. This is an administrative feature, and you may have heard Mike White's session yesterday on admin, Galileo admin. I strongly encourage every library, every school to appoint a Galileo admin. We're going to be adding and continue to add more and more functionality there that will let you do some fun and unique things. And some customization. I know there's been a call for a long time. We want to make the Galileo portal more hours, more institution specific, and we're trying our best to let you all have some freedoms to do that. So the banners is a good step in that direction. And I asked everybody at the last RACL meeting to send me candy on April 12th. They didn't, but we asked me with a banner here in our staging site, and I was able to show them that. So that's what that image is from. And then we released the new EBSCO Discovery service to everyone now. And there's some mixed feelings about it, and that I absolutely understand. And we're working with libraries to mitigate that. We've offered a lot of training. This is a new trend, I think, that we're going to see with more and more vendors as they work to continuously improve their platforms. Continuous improvement or agile development is something that's becoming more and more an industry norm in the library world with our vendors. And we use agile development practices in Galileo, sort of modified for the academic space a bit. But we're going to see more and more of this. The new EDS is an interesting example. You'll see things released kind of as a minimum viable product, and then you'll see really marked improvements over time. Certainly, EBSCO has some great things planned for the new EBSCO Discovery service, but out of the box, it's pretty good. Some things that we're working on with them. We're constantly offering feedback to EBSCO that we hear from you all, but we feel like the release was in a good shape when it did come out. There's some good features coming up quickly. So without further ado, let me go ahead and do a quick tour of these three features for you. I won't spend any time on banners, but I'm going to take a quick look at bento customization. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just messing around. It's fun to play around with a public library because I can do kind of everything. I'm going to go ahead and log in as Athens-Clarke County Library. And I chose my organization, and I'll log in with single sign-on here via my fake Pines card. And now I am authenticated into Galileo, and I look like a public library patron. So let's take a look at bento customization. So I'm here in Galileo. My default is to the bento search because that's the last thing I chose. I'm going to go ahead and do a search, and I'm looking for reviews. And I'm looking for reviews for headphones. I love audio stuff. I love gadgets. So let's find some headphone reviews. So I'm in the space now, and I'm in Athens-Clarke County Library, and I'm in the bento search. And you see here that one of the defaults that we have in the bento for public libraries is consumer reports, which is super cool. It's great because I think Athens-Clarke County manages their own bento, and I know their e-resources person makes some changes. They have some things they want to add, want to subtract. We have added some things recently, we've added actually a consumer health bento, and we've actually added a consumer reports buying guide bento for the public libraries. These are currently hidden for Athens-Clarke County. But if I go here and go into customized bentos, I love this feature. I click on more options now, and then I go into add bentos. Any of the bentos that aren't there that you don't see, you can add. So they don't have academic journals added for the default view here. If I wanted that, I could add it. I could add the Civil Rights Digital Library if I was interested in that content. So if I wanted to make something specific for a history group that was working in my library, I could add that view and I could share it with them. And that's the whole point of these. One of the great points about these is you can share these views with users within your library space. And I just love that. You can share the individual bento views, and I'll show you how to do that in a couple of minutes. But I'm focused on consumer things, so I'm just going to add, there's a consumer health bento. But then also there's a consumer reports buying guide bento I can add. So I've added a couple of new bento boxes there to my search, and that updates automatically and instantaneously. Well, hey, maybe there's some things I want to take away. I added scholarly articles. Well, hey, maybe I don't want that. And maybe I don't want the journals box. Maybe I want to keep this as simple as possible. I can just click on the X, and then when I click done, it'll save those. There might be some good things in news articles, but I'm going to get rid of the print materials. This is searching the Times catalog. I would get rid of media. There could be something there, but I'm not confident. I'll go ahead and click on done, and I've greatly reduced the number of bentos that I have to look at for reviews on headphones now. This is my view. This is me as an individual user. This is not tied to the library at all. This is tied to my browser via a cookie. So it will save this view. If I save my cookies and don't clear my cache and cookies, and you all are like thinking, Russell, you told me to clear my cache and cookies all the time. Yeah, that's true. But it will hold this view for as long as your cache and cookies are there. But if you want to get rid of this view and go back to defaults, that's an option too. You can restore bento defaults. I'm not going to do that right now because I want to show you how to also capture this. Now I've done this. I have this created this. Imagine, another context where you have like you want to do Digital Library of Georgia, and you want to do magazines and maybe encyclopedia, a couple other things specifically for genealogy folks. You could do a bento specifically for that. It's really great what you're able to do. Now, there are limitations in terms of bentos you can add. Now, you can't add your own bentos in Galileo admin, but talk to us and take the admin training that Mike promoted yesterday, and we can show you all about how you can add some individual bentos. Notice that we do have some bentos for individual databases like the Points of View Reference Center. It's a very popular database that we added a bento for. But so there's material type databases, bentos. There's also database specific bentos that you can create. So I'm going to go ahead now. I've saved this view. The question is like, well, hey, I've created this great view. And I want to share it with the patron. Maybe I'm answering a reference question about headphones, and I want to share with them what I found. Or hey, maybe I want to be able to share this to my website so users have less material to go through when they're looking to look specifically at consumer information. I can create a permalink to this layout, and it gives me two options after I choose that permalink to this layout option. I can do a permalink to just the simple bento order. It's just going to have a search box on it, and then you can search that bento order again. It won't have the results. Or you can save a permanent link to the actual bento layout and the search results if you want to. So it's very easy to take this, share it on a website, share it in other ways. Now, one of the things that we're working on, and I'll talk a little bit more about this later, is right now, if I capture, I'll go ahead and copy one of these out and pop it into my browser here. And you'll see that it's just going to repeat what I just had. And when I pop that link in there, what we want this to do is instead of just being a static link, we want to make this type of thing more embeddable. So we're working on a concept for a search box generator. So you can take a bento link and make it an actual search box, or actually save that view in a visual way. So there's lots of things we want to do to make this work more visual. So again, that's just a quick look at the bento customization piece, but there's some really nice options to think about how creatively you could use this. Another piece that we're thinking about too is how, hey, I've created a great bento view, and I think this would be great to target specifically to my nursing students, but they do come to the Galileo world to find this. We're thinking about where on the Galileo portal could we put a place to save these views. You could save them and put them in if you're managing GLRI. You could put them in as a GLRI link. That's one option. But we want to perhaps find a way to make these more readily available. If you created a nursing bento view or a genealogy bento view, make it more findable for your users. So we're continuing to think about that. So just some of the things that we're doing and some of the things we're thinking about with bento and bento customization. I told you I'm not going to spend a lot of time on banners, but I'm going to take a quick look at new EDS with you. So again, to engage the new EBSCO Discovery Service search, you simply just click on the classic search. Then you can go ahead and initiate your search. If you want to go right on into the classic search, advanced search, you click the advanced search button, and it'll take you to the advanced search, which provides you with a few more searching options. So that's what the advanced search and the new EDS looks like. I think the things that I'm going to go ahead and do a search. I'll do my same search again here. Headphones and reviews. when I'm here looking at content, looking at what I'm provided with, I think one of the first questions I got was, well, the filters aren't on the left anymore. The filters live right here. That's the first thing to notice. Is the all filters option is here. You can limit to full text quickly and easily. We were talking about full text in another session and how, making sure users can quickly and easily limit to full text is important. We've done it so that you can do that when you engage the bento search from the very start, but it's a little trickier here. Peer reviewed, you can limit just to the Pines catalog if you're searching for at a public library. So all the same limits that you were able to apply before are available here. One fun update to tell you about that I haven't talked a lot, I'm going to announce this before the beginning of the school year. For those of you who work in the K-12 environment, there's some changes to the Lexile range limit. For those of you who are in the K-12 space, you've heard me talk about this for a long time. Previously, this did not apply to ebooks, whether you were in the EBSCO Discovery Search or if you were in the ebooks K through 8 collection. Now it does. Now, that's with a caveat that not all of those ebooks have Lexile range metadata, but I think that's a really good positive change that they've made, not because of the new EBSCO Discovery Service, but because of that's a long-term project that they were working on. It just happened to coincide with that release. So just know when you do that Lexile range limit now, you will find ebooks in that Lexile range as well, assuming they have that metadata. So just a few other things. I found out yesterday, for those of you who may be waiting for this, that journal alerts went live yesterday. So if you want to set up a journal alert for a journal that you read frequently, you can do that. So that's a new functionality I haven't even had a chance to play with yet. So then obviously we always have our publication search. And then again, another great thing I think they added fairly recently was a concept map search. So this is probably not going to do much for me. Actually, it did. So it's taken the concept of headphones and brought it into a grid view where I can look at other related terms and ideas and kind of do a search around it. Or I can go to the map. And when I go to the map, I can sort of see a visual representation of all the different related things to headphones in my search. So it's kind of cool to be able to kind of explore concepts and view in different ways visually with that visual search. And there's some video training. I won't go deep into it today, but there's some video training that goes with that as well. Come on. What's moving that back button there? Sorry, y'all. So there we are back to square one. That's just, again, a quick little tour of the new EBSCO Discovery Service, letting you all know that it's there. It's there for all libraries now. So some things that we've done, like I said, recently. Some things that we're going to be releasing shortly, and some of these are, again, just going to be mentions. I'm going to mention via just a slide image of it. We're working on our first chat integration for Galileo, and let me define that for you. It will be the ability to integrate your local chat, with our first option being libchat. If you're using libguides or libanswers, you can use the libchat option now in Galileo. Once we release that, we're going to release that really soon. We're just waiting on some documentation to be written. We should be releasing that within the month, I think. So very excited about that. Don't want to say, hey, we're only doing that for our academic libraries that use libchat. That's not the case. We are going to do that as the first easy thing to do because LibGuides actually has really good support for such things, and we were able to do it fairly quickly and easily. But we will be exploring other chat options like library help, and we will be consulting with our public library colleagues about what chat clients they may be using in their space so that you can integrate a chat locally, no matter where you're coming from or what you're using. Now, we can't necessarily design something for everything, but we're going to definitely design for common platforms there. So that we can continue to support better integration of local functionality like a chat into Galileo. To again, level set here, we are not going to start providing chat reference at Galileo, but we are going to make it so that Galileo, your chat reference, is available in Galileo. So that's another place where users can access it. So we're going to create greater ease of use for banners, and that ease of use is coming with an HTML editor so that you can easily edit your banners. And Mike talked a little bit about that yesterday in his session. And another thing that we're talking about is something that we've been asked about for years, and we're going to roll this out really carefully with feedback from our K-12 and public library colleagues, but we're looking at access limits for K-12 use. And what we mean there is we've had several school libraries ask us, well, hey, if I start in the elementary view and I want my student to stay in the elementary view, can Galileo facilitate that? Right now, the answer is no. But we want to be able to offer that, as much as we sort of hate to offer that, to schools that need that type of functionality. So we have done some work to make that a possibility. And I don't have a means to demo that for you today, but just letting you know that it's something we were working on. It's something that we're going to test thoroughly and get feedback from the Galileo community on before we release it. So this is the Ask a Librarian functionality. It is active in our Galileo staging environment now, and we have been working with some testers, and they are really pleased with it. It's going to be simple inline integration just at the top screen of Galileo, right in line with that support area. You will be able to see whether the chat is on or offline. And we've also, for those of you that use live chat regularly already and want to integrate it into Galileo, one of the great questions we got from our testers was, will it do the same functionality it does with other websites and show me where my student is coming from via the URL that they initiated the chat from? It absolutely will, which is going to be, I think, a huge win for that. We tested that out with them, and it was just great questions. That group asked some great questions, and we're really pleased with the outcomes there. So we look forward to releasing, like I said, releasing that soon. So what other integrations that I mentioned that are coming? Oh, it's the access limits. I don't have the means again to share that with you today, but again, basically what it means is you could, if you're an elementary school student, you log in via the elementary school view, you choose that view when you log in for the first time, or you come in via an elementary school specific link, you're going to be locked into that elementary view. If you choose middle school, then you would be able to level down, but you wouldn't necessarily be able to level up. And I understand that a question was asked yesterday in a session yesterday. Well, what about for those who might be in the high school view and want to level up to educator because they are in an AP course or other things? We will make sure that the high school view provides adequate resources. Certainly, we will look at making sure things are deployed carefully. I believe there are only a few collections that are excluded currently from that high school view that are only available in the educator view. And we can work on mitigating that circumstance, but we want to provide the best research experience we possibly can while addressing system-wide or system-specific needs. So other things that we're thinking about, or actually, these are things that we're going to be doing in the not too distant future. For those of you, again, coming from that K-12 space, we're so excited. It's been a minute for us. We've been planning to do it for a long time, but we are putting it down as a 24-25 development goal to go ahead and work toward adapting a more user-friendly, interactive space for K-12 students. We'll probably start that with the elementary space because that is the most challenging space currently. A list of stuff is not very exciting for a fifth grader, believe me, or in my case, a middle schooler. I know I have a 12-year-old at home that Galileo is fun when you get into the right resource, but it's kind of boring. It's like, yeah, okay, fair. So we definitely want to make it so that it's more engaging, more interesting, and more easy to use for K-12 students. And that will include things. I'm going to move down to the next bullet going downward, leverage AI to assist Galileo staff and users. And I put that out there broadly because we're dipping our toe. Josh, our developer, said that really well in another session we were doing earlier this week. Absolutely, we are dipping our toe into AI. We want to see what types of things that it can do. But one of the things we know it can do, and Joy is working on this a bit, is leveraging AI to write better descriptions for databases that are targeted toward that K-12 audience so that we can make it much more clear for that audience what these databases do. It takes a lot of effort to write descriptions for databases across 4 different platforms to keep things up to date. And we're hoping that AI, that's an early experiment that we can do with AI to help us out with a practical task. So while AI is exciting, sometimes finding ways to leverage it for practical tasks is very useful. We're also hoping in the longer term, again, early experimentation days with this, leverage AI to make search better by presenting better did you mean options. That'll take some time and some effort and again, some testing and experimentation, but we are working toward hopefully that goal. Another thing that again came up in another session today was the ability to kind of discern what is available in full text and what isn't. And I certainly think that's a challenge. We try to put that limit in as many places as we can, but we also want to kind of help by making more content web discoverable. We have the means using the Galileo search, which is powered by EBSCO, the EBSCO discovery search that is at the core of the Galileo search, the Galileo main search, to kind of use that to make that content more discoverable on the open web via a browser plugin. So we're going to start doing work to get libraries more ingrained and school systems across the board more ingrained in that and more set up with that, so that that content pops a little bit better when you're on the open web and you see something that you actually have access to. We've been long working on a better Galileo stats experience. We have to get to a minimum viable product. And again, there's that word, minimum viable products. Basically, the stats tool is the only part of Galileo at this point that is still on the old code base. Our developers are working very hard and will dedicate time to that this winter to create and make sure that we can complete getting the stats tool over to that new code base that all of the rest of Galileo sits on. And from there, we can really begin to evolve the stats experience and design some custom reports and other things. We're also thinking about ways that on the USG side, we can integrate tools like Panorama. So there's always new and different thinking about stats and how we can make that improved and better. Georgia Historic Newspapers, they're doing some work there to improve that platform. And once that work is done, we'll be able to have a Georgia Historic Newspapers bento, which I think will be hugely helpful. We have the Civil Rights Digital Library bento and the broader Digital Library of Georgia bentos now, but the newspapers I think will be huge to have in a bento search. That'll be a direct link into via API that Georgia Historic Newspapers info, so that we can present it prettily and users can access it easily. And then finally, cloud hosting for Galileo. You all dread my emails, I'm sure. Well, this part of Galileo is going to be down for a couple of days during spring break or fall break or whenever, because either part of the USG servers are going to be down or part of the UGA servers are going to be down, and that's going to cause these outages. So we are looking at cloud hosting over the summer so that we can start to think about how we can more consistently have Galileo up and active. Our uptime is generally excellent, but we do have physical servers that from time to time need work. So we're looking to do less of that and cause fewer interruptions when those things happen. So that's what we're working on. So here we are at the almost at the end of my slides here, and we're whopping 30 minutes in. So like I said, you would hear me go on and on about a few things here. I'm going to take a pause, take a beat here before we go into the Q&A/feedback time and ask if there are any questions about anything I covered or anything that I perhaps went through too quickly that I can clarify for anyone. Questions? And Joy, Lucy, feel free to feed me questions if something's come through in the Q&A or the chat.
Nothing in the chat or Q&A so far.
Great. Well, everybody, that sounds like a cue for us to have a little bit of fun and let you offer us some feedback, and we'll respond. Lucy's here too. We can, like I said, answer questions, respond to specific pieces of feedback. But revisiting my slide from earlier, you know what we're going to do next. We talked a little bit about what we're planning on developing and what's coming out soon and what's come out recently. So what questions might you have for us here at Galileo? And then what issues, challenges, limitations would you like to see us address that we haven't already? Or perhaps there have been some challenges that I spoke to during the session that we're planning to address. That was a very limited set of our 24, 25 development goals. There's a lot more there. But those were the things I thought this audience would be most interested in. So the floor is open. Again, I welcome you to take a moment and share. And oh yeah, Lucy's giving you the means to share anonymous feedback, which is absolutely fine. you want to tell Lucy, you should let Russell go. He's old now, then you're welcome to do that. Yeah, I was going to suggest that to her. Yes, we can also.
Well, given that I'm older than you, Russell, that would be shooting myself in the foot.
Uh, Russell is feeling old today. This is personal information, but Russell was diagnosed with arthritis in his hip this morning, so he's feeling great. So, questions, comments, thoughts? Everybody want to leave early? I shouldn't have said that. I got everybody thinking about leaving early. You can also offer a raised hand to be at the bottom of the screen too, I believe, if you want to ask a question or be called upon to do that. Absolutely.
I have a question, Russell.
Please.
What are we doing or what are you doing to help ensure that K-12 environments speak to children? Like actually
That's a good
speak to
question.
them, as opposed to small adult, you know?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And it's interesting to have, I know you have a very small one at home and I have a 12-year-old at home. So there's always try to listen for cues and clues there, and also try to listen to and pay attention to the curriculum. You know, I think about the more that we could perhaps tie the K-12 curriculum to Galileo, and we've tried to do that in small ways already. Joy, if you look at the middle school, there's a big focus on Georgia history in that 8th grade year. So we have New Georgia Encyclopedia front and center, things that we can do. There's small things that we can do to bring those things to light, right? So thinking about new and creative ways that we can kind of target that through the platform or things that I think about. There may be things that you won't think about as well that we could do. But I also have to say, Joy, that's not necessarily my specialty. So I think we'll be looking to and forming groups around that again. You know, we had our Galileo Development Advisory Committee for a while. I think we'll be going back to more targeted advisory committees and engaging people specifically with helping us to ideate on revising those spaces for sure.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that you know, our academic libraries and public libraries are generally excellent at speaking up and telling us when they have issues or things that they like to see us change. It's been a little more challenging for us to engage with the practitioners in the K-12 space. So we have, you know, we have done that. We have reached out. We have gotten some excellent feedback. But moving forward, especially as we start looking towards redesigning that, you know, early years interface for Galileo, would love to hear from any of you who have thoughts, you know, ideas, even if you think they're crazy ideas, you know, feel free to share them with us. If you have kids yourself or are working with that younger audience, because it is a challenge to get good feedback from that group.
Yeah, that is very true. And Joy's been doing some great work on that recently in so much as she can. And I think Joy's just basically concluded through that work that space is difficult.
Yes,
Well,
that would be the word.
no, it
Yeah,
is.
that there are some inherent challenges to the platform for the smallest, the youngest of users. So we are working on some user testing. We did some initial user testing with about 10 students across Georgia, and I'll be giving that feedback to the dev team soon. But then there may be a chance for opening up that user testing to a wider audience later on.
Yeah, so Joy's done some really great work on that. So the question, is there training on customizing the EDS experience, such as setting default filters? So that's an interesting question, and I know that you've asked us several questions about that, Amy. Certainly, we can work with you on that. There are trainings provided on EBSCO Connect on customizing the EDS experience. I would highly recommend working with Galileo directly on that. Mike White can work with you and show you things. Generally, it's an interesting balance too, because we manage most EDS functionality for our libraries, but we always listen to our libraries about the functionality and what it can be doing for them better. And I certainly know that we've done some things with some things with you. But yes, short answer, yes, there's training. There's training available through EBSCO, but I think the best thing is probably to sit down with us first and sit down with somebody from Gallup Support, Mike White, myself, and we can walk you through some of the things that can be done there, and then work on getting those things done for you. Absolutely. When it comes to that level of work, again, it's that balance, like I said, between the institution, what you want, and things that we perhaps have set by default to serve the consortial experience. You are always welcome. Oh, Joy is seeding the seeding the question. Joy asks, so why doesn't Galileo have an app yet? So you've heard my answer to that question a bazillion times, many of you, and Joy's heard my answer to that question. We don't need it. But wait, Joy, I'm not done. Wait, Lucy, I'm not done. The reason being, my previous answer to this was always, well, we have really worked hard to do a mobile first design. Galileo is very adaptable. You can add, and not everyone knows how to do this, but you can add Galileo as an app essentially by bookmarking it to your mobile interface. That's different for every single mobile device, whether it be Android or depending on the version of your device, so that can be tricky. But to Joy's point and to Joy's question, we started to think about this. People are asking for it. Why aren't we just doing it? It's a great potential tool for creating outreach. A lot of applications these days are just skinned onto the website itself, which is fairly, I won't say anything is very easy, but fairly easy to do from a development perspective. So I didn't add that to my list of highlights, but that is something that we are strongly considering and probably will do in the coming year. And Lucy, if you have anything to add to that, I welcome it, but that's my take on that, our discussions on it.
No, I mean, I think the aha moment for like you, Russell, I was like, well, why do we need one? You can just use the mobile. You can use the mobile version, and which defaults if you go to Galileo, and you have to have an internet connection anyway to use Galileo in any meaningful way. So why would we do an app?
Right.
And then the aha moment for me was when somebody said, well, everybody's looking for an app though.
Mhm.
So it's an excellent marketing opportunity if folks are looking in the App Store or the Apple Store for your resource. Why wouldn't you be there in order to serve it up that way?
Absolutely. No. It's one of those things where I always liked my answer, but then it always sort of my answer always sort of ate at me after I offered it too. So that probably explains why, Lucy, the ones that we all had that aha moment. But yes, definitely on the block for development and time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd be interested from this group. How many of your students would be out there searching for apps? Do they use apps? I know in the public library space, it's interesting. There's tons of, like, obviously the Libby app is like such a go-to app in the public library spaces now, and the academic spaces. I know, I don't know if their students are actively using. Well, I would think they're probably accessing perhaps their learning management system via an app and some other things, but I can't, I would say also in the library vendor space, it hasn't been very exciting in terms of the apps that have been offered. EBSCO has an app. It works okay, but it isn't very exciting or engaging or something I would go actively looking for if I wasn't a librarian. Any thoughts on that from the audience? Well, Joy, you've asked some great questions. I'm wondering if others might have great questions, or Joy, if there's something, I thought we had such a good discussion this morning also, Joy, with the advocacy group. If there's anything that you would like to perhaps bring up that we talked about there that would be interesting. Here's a comment. And since I agree that it is mostly a good marketing tool, the app for a public library space. Yeah, I think it's that. And certainly, I'm just used to using Galileo on my phone, and I'm used to helping people use Galileo on a mobile device, and it works pretty well. We've discovered a few times, Lucy, I believe you and I found bugs that can cause issues, but usually we've been able to get those resolved fairly quickly. So we always test in the mobile space for sure, whenever we're rolling out new features and functionality.
Yep, and of course we have so many things that, could potentially be linked to from within Galileo. Our statewide resources, the opt-in cost
Yeah.
share resources, your local resources. There's no, and all of those have different ways of
Mhm.
accessing things. There's no way to test if everything's going to look great on a mobile. But you should be able to see the HTML for sure, and how PDFs are handled, or probably more, how your phone handles PDFs than anything else. But it should work pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's a huge range. I mean, if you're talking about even the Galileo core, we're talking about 7 or 8 vendors, and that can be a hugely different mobile experience vendor to vendor. So, yeah. And I think that's part of what's good about the Bento space, which works pretty well in the mobile environment. It's at least a way to, on the surface, stay in the Galileo universe for longer, without having to be linked out necessarily and quickly to vendor content. And you always have a path back to that Galileo Bento space too, even if it's in another window or tab. It's at least still there as a starting point. And we work really hard to keep that nailed down, and keep that sort of as a bookmarked spot for users to return to.
Yep, and with all of the new functionality that we've added or are adding around being able to, you've got filters and limits that you can apply within a single bento box, and the ability to link to or embed those bento boxes. So you really have a lot of control over what you want to show to your patrons,
Yeah.
and how you want to show it.
Yeah, and that's another thing as well. And you asked specifically about you asked specifically about training on Bento pieces, or pardon me, on EDS. That's another thing. If anybody wants to sit down and, I'm always open to submit a support ticket or email me. I'm always happy to sit down and talk through how to use some things, or to sit down and brainstorm on how to best use a piece of functionality in a Galileo space. In that session too, also this earlier today, Joy, I was really enjoying talking about how we hear so much feedback so often that Galileo is overwhelming. There's so much information. It's this giant list of databases. The EDS search is huge and it searches a lot of material. You got to be a pretty good searcher to make it work right, if we're honest. So although Bento helps a lot. So with that, I think another thing that I think is so important for library staff, librarians to keep in mind is another thing that we really want to design Galileo to do is to be customized, personalized. We have the Galileo Express links to give you direct links to specific databases. We were talking about, getting students and teachers at that point of need with a database or the resource they need, and that's what keeps them coming back. So anything that we can do to help your users understand that, it's just we've become such I'm going to use the word siloed for lack of a better term, but e-resources are weirdly siloed. We have our general resources, and Galileo provides a lot of that, but we also provide a lot of really good subject-specific content via the cost shares and other things. And there's ways that we can help those users that like to engage with that specific set of content to find it more readily. And I think that's an important part of what we have tried to do and will continue to try to do better.
And I don't really have anything to add to that. I think you've touched on pretty much everything. And as far as what we hear regarding feedback and what we are doing to try to address those things. Like Russell said about himself, and it's the same with Lucy, me, or anybody else on the staff, we're always up for hearing your suggestions, reachable by email, send in a support ticket, take the annual survey in November. Yes, we read through the hundreds of comments that we get in the survey, and we answer all of the support tickets. So don't hesitate to reach out to us.
And Joy, that's interesting too. The annual survey is such good feedback. Joy will tell you, I have a love-hate with that type of feedback, because I don't know, it's weird. You work so hard and then Joy, you feel a little wounded, but you need to hear it, right? Whether it's painful or
Russell
not.
takes it very, very personally.
I do. I take it very, very personally.
Yeah.
But it takes me a few days to work through it. It is really, it's an emotional thing for me to work through feedback, but we do it. Joy, though, what she does is she processes that and sends me a list of everything every year that she feels is immediately actionable. And then I work through that with the support team. So we're all, it's almost instantaneous improvement. Once Russell crawls out from under the bed, comes out of the fetal position and is able to processing it. Just kidding. So
We
it's
still
almost
have
that.
a standing joke here at Galileo with the one response we got years ago. We made a fairly it was pre-bento. It wasn't even the change to the bento. It was some other fairly minor change that I think a vendor made, and that we got an email from a patron asking, why do you hate me?
Why do you hate me? And this was like probably 2016, 2017. And I was actually, Lucy, that was a support request that I worked about newspaper. This was what it was. And we actually finally figured out, made a fix to that, but whoa, that was a lot. Why do you hate me? And it was pages of why we
Had ruined this person's life by changing the interface slightly.
Yeah. Well, I'd say the other thing, just one final thought, and we can wrap up. I mentioned the statistics, and I see the comment coming in, and I mentioned the K-12 design and ideation. Those are things that in the coming year, we will definitely be reaching out for participants on, that we will want feedback on. I've had some people asking about stats off and on for a while. We will be reaching out to form some consultative committees around those ideas specifically. So please, I think those are going to be great opportunities to participate in a really engaging way with the process of what we do and have a huge impact on the quality of Galileo and the quality of Galileo statistics and information. So please do. And then I see this comment. So it would be great if the browser could save the user's language preferences for search results. Anyway, that can be possible. Take that one offline. But that's an interesting question too, in the sense that we had done some consideration around language improvements to Galileo, and it's a huge challenge to do that, as you can imagine. So we do rely on browsers to do that. So yeah, I'm not sure what might be done, but we can take a look at that. Again, it's a couple quick questions you've asked, and we'll follow up offline. If you wouldn't mind, send me a note about both of those, and I'll check into them. And that would have been the language preferences, and then also the EBSCO Discovery Service backend training. Well, again, I want to thank everyone so much for taking the time this afternoon to engage with us, talk with us, listen to us talk. Anytime you, as Joyce said, you feel free to email us, reach out to us, ask us questions. If you got specific technical questions, Galileo support is certainly the way to go. I often tell people, please submit via Galileo support. I'm happy to take your direct email, but no, if you email me directly, I do occasionally go on vacation, rarely, but occasionally, and I might not answer right away. So if you need an answer right away, just be sure that you're using Galileo support. That support form is there, and we'll also make sure that everyone has slides and recordings for everything. But again, thank you all so much for talking with us. Language search result. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, I'll look into that. That's something certainly we could ideate on with the vendor. Yep. But thank you all, and take care, and have a great rest of your week. And thank you for attending the Galileo Annual Conference.